along the turquoise blue waters of the Aegean and Mediterranean seas, spanning two continents of Europe and Asia, lies a beautiful land that was long thought of as having purely mythical people. Since the beginning of civilization, one emperor after another left its imprint here, enriching the culture of what is now a 99% Muslim Turkey.
One group of people that has been gone for centuries continues to enrich our culture with tales of love and war. These are the Trojans. So on to Troy we go.
From Istanbul, we drove to Troy, then joined a tour from Istanbul to Ankara, Cappadocia, Konya, Antalya, Perge, Pamukkale, and Ephesus.
Along the Aegean Sea, we drive through one remote town after another. In the simple way the Turkish country folks live. The school children are friendly and don't shy away from the camera. We push on and finally come to Troy. It was Paris of Troy who started the Trojan War when he abducted Helen of Sparta.
Was this the face that launched 1,000 ships? And a horse? It was this Trojan horse that ended the war 3,500 years ago, but its story is still being told today.
This is Istanbul. The turquoise minaret calls the people of Allah to prayer. The other minarets join in the call, and all of Turkey chant their prayer in unison.
This is the Blue Mosque, the most splendid mosque in Istanbul, built by Sultan Ahmet II in 1603. The premises consisted of a hospital, bazaar, school, mausoleum, caravansary, and a public fountain. Decorating the interior are 21,000 blue and green tiles, silk carpets, and hundreds of imported oil lamps. Embellishing the walls are writings from the Quran and the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. The Sultan, his beloved wife, and son are buried here. There are 5 rituals of a Muslim. They testify that there is only one God, called Allah. They pray 5 times a day, at times dictated by the sun movements. They fast the whole month of Ramadan, abstain from food, drink, sex, and bad behavior, give a tax called zakat, which is 1/5 of their savings to the poor, and make a pilgrimage to Mecca once in life if they can afford it.
This is the unrivaled masterpiece, the Hagia Sophia, a Roman church for 1,000 years of Byzantine rule. The green and red marble on the nave were from Pergamum, a pagan temple, the granite columns from Ephesus, and special tiles and bricks from Rhodes. In Ottoman times, in the 1400s, the mosaic of religious scenes were replaced with these round plates bearing the name of Allah and Muhammad, some of the greatest calligraphy in the Islamic world. They put a niche facing Mecca and a minaret to complete the conversion to a mosque. The final change was made by Ataturk when he made it into a museum and brought into daylight the lovely mosaics covered with stucco, like this painting of Mary, Justinian, and Constantine.
Across from the Hagia Sophia is the underground Yerebatan cistern, built in Byzantine time to provide water during a siege. The 336-column structure holds 80,000 cubic meters of water. We visit a church called Kora, famous for its 12th century mosaics. It took 10 years to meticulously make them, telling the story from the birth of Mary to the life of Jesus. On the adjacent room are frescoes. After the fall of Constantine, there was no more money to finance fresco, so the artist moved to Europe. The spice market is made in connection with the Imperial Mosque next to it, as they need funds to maintain the mosque. Here we buy Turkish saffron.
Topkapi Palace was the Sultan's headquarters during the Ottoman Empire. In the courtyard are halls of treasuries, holy relics, and Sultan's robes. This talismanic shirt protects the Sultan from the enemy and misfortune. It's inscribed with circles, stars, the name of God, and verses of the Quran. The kitchen with 20 chimneys has to be large enough to cook for 20,000 meals a day, 5,000 of which were distributed to caravanserai and soup kitchens. This China collection takes 1.5 years to transport from China and Japan. The greenish Celadon china turns poison to yellow, a good protection against power rivalry. In the harem, there's high competition in presenting the Sultan with a son. Tonight, this woman hopes to be selected, to no avail. Then the Sultan unveils his choice among the 400 women of leisure. We can't leave Istanbul without shopping at the Grand Bazaar. Eric buys a stone-studded dagger, and I buy a heavily beaded belly dancing costume and glittering scarves.
Sandra, our guide, escorts us to Ankara, the capital. The mausoleum of Kemal Ataturk is the symbol of new Ankara. Ataturk modernized Turkey when he unified the language, changed the alphabet from Arabic to Latin, decreed the use of last names, outlawed polygamy, and discouraged the use of the veil. The decorations around his tomb echo the theme of independence. There are 3 women from different generations and walks of life: a wailing woman, a student, and a peasant.
There's a layering of cultures from 10,000 BC, Paleolithic era. Here's a wall painting by cavemen showing people running from animals like leopards. In the Neolithic period came the first agricultural community. They started trade and they lived in one place. They buried the dead at home, collected heads of ancestors. In the early Bronze Age, the Assyrians brought tin, wool, writing, and religion. These are among the burial objects. The civilization has a rich pantheon of 1,000 gods.
Then came the Hittites in 1200 BC. They supported the Trojans in the Trojan War. They built houses on rocks with a lion gate. They incorporated sculpture in their structure. On these walls is Kabibi, the mother goddess, in a procession on a high chair resting on a lion. They used the cuneiform type of writing. They found contracts on clay tablets recognizing women's marital rights and protection of her properties.
We stop at the Agsikarahan, caravanserai, a resting stop for up to 3 days for merchants, subsidized by the government to encourage commerce. Marco Polo stayed in one. Inside are shops, baths, kitchen, and vets. In the center is the Holy Temple. You can exchange a camel or a horse for a new one. They burn a lot of incense because people and animals slept together.
I've never seen a more interesting landscape than Cappadocia. It's simply out of this world. Volcanic lava spewing 20,000 meters high gave rise to these mysterious-looking caves that were easy to carve into homes for Christians hiding from Romans and the Arabs. Gourmet is the biggest town in this lunar-like terrain. How would you like to live like Flintstone in a cave such as this? Inside is a common eating table to warm food and make wine.
St. Basil Church, which the Christians carved, has no need for support, just the carving of the arches. The Apple Church, with its painted biblical scenes, is a miniature replica of Byzantine churches. This is the pigeonry. Pigeons are used for communication and for fertilizer. In the distance is the Uchisar Castle, used as a watchtower, sends light signals from Istanbul to Palestine in 2 hours. Through this rock citadel, if you can scramble your way from room to room to the top, you'd be rewarded with a lovely view. The Turks lived here until rendered unsafe. This woman is boiling grape syrup to eat with tahina.
To culminate our day of going in and out of caves, Sandra, our guide, takes us out to dinner in yet another cave.
Here Eric sits wistfully, waiting for the belly dancing.
And what's for dinner? Roast lamb that the chef proudly displays, or broiled fish if you prefer. You have a choice of regular or apple tea or the strong Turkish tea. There is a folk dance that enacts the wedding tradition. Men and women are in separate houses before the ceremony. Then comes the big feast where everyone is invited.
The main event, what Eric is waiting for, is the belly dancing. I bribed this lady to wear turquoise, my color motif. She gets Eric up to dance with her, seeing that he has the belly for it. Just before sunrise, we walk up to Pachaba to see the fairy chimneys. Ba means vineyard, as you see here. The rich have them. These mushroom-like structures were formed when the heavier, deeper part of a volcano stayed on top and pressed the neck, which later was eroded by wind. Don't you think they look like...
Don't say it.
Never mind.
Here's a family, a papa, mama, and baby. The vertical and horizontal erosions were caused by the rain, while the circular ones by the wind. The rock houses were carved by residents, but this rock camel is a natural form. They are big on camels here, even sporting a beauty contest for them. The inhabitants are not happy with the prefab housing that the government provides. They prefer to be cavemen. Caves that are in danger of erosion are now only used for storage.
We take a village walk in Sugandli, a community of 500. The men collect the sheep from the village and take them grazing, while the women dry zucchini on the roof for winter to eat as dolma or stuffed zucchini. Here, the daughter-in-law is not well accepted until she bears a son. Sandra talks to this woman who said, the daughter-in-law just moved out. A liberated woman, it seems. Because of the arid land, there's not much agriculture, so they do handicrafts. Everyone has a unit for doll making, even the men help. I asked this young woman to convert my doll ornaments to turquoise, and she gladly does it without extra pay.
After lunch, let's check out the underground city of Ozkanak. It has direct access from houses. We squeeze through tight openings built with low ceilings and false exits to discourage the enemy. Some 20,000 people can hide here at one time. They sleep a lot, lack vitamin B, and have slow heartbeats. It has 52 ventilation chimneys. Once they roll the round stone shut, there is no way to open it from the outside.
A tour of Turkey is always accompanied by a carpet-making tour. Here we learn how to tie a single Trojan knot and a double Gordian knot. We learn that a 7 by 10 feet carpet takes 16 months to weave, with 30 knots per square inch. Since it's not polite for women to express their feelings, they do so subtly in carpet designs. Each cocoon of the silkworm from Bursa produces 1/2 mile filament after it's soaked in hot water and spun into thread. They dye the thread into various colors with natural dyes. We also learn to spot a wool on cotton rug by its floral design, while a wool on wool carpet by its large geometric design like this. Carpet sales are always accompanied by Turkish tea.
We admire the luxurious lobby of our hotel before going out to see the whirling dervishes. It's actually a ceremony, not a performance. First, he ceremoniously takes off his shroud, which represents the ego, before he takes the mystical journey to find the truth. While whirling, he points his right hand to the sky and his left hand towards earth, pivoting around the heart, embracing all creation with love.
The next day, we drive to Konya, a very old intellectual center where the conservative sect came about. Under the turquoise dome, Mevlana is buried in a beautiful green and gold tomb.
He teaches that everything revolves, from the minute electrons in the atom to the gigantic stars in the solar system. Man carries in his life the revolutions of the atoms, by circulation of the blood, by his coming from and going back to the earth, and by revolving with the earth itself.
In the 13th century, Mevlana preached his message of love. To be a member, one must have good education and must do difficult tasks.
The Taurus Mountains from Konya go south to meet the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean. Antalya is a favorite of the Germans and French because here you can swim for 6 months and ski the next month. The region produces small bananas, figs, and sesame, which you see drying out in picturesque bundles. The foremost product and the symbol of Antalya is the orange, and this float with a golden lady holding an orange is for the yearly festival Golden Orange. After a long drive all day, it is rewarding to walk straight to the large terrace, the Tekkirova Hotel, for a sumptuous dinner buffet. This watermelon is a reminder that you are in Turkey.
Through the narrow streets, we walk to the harbor. Here's a peaceful scene of the water, boats, and wall of the inner city. In the Antalya Museum, we get a preview of the two Greek cities that we're going to visit today, Perge and Aspendos, both a matriarchal society. This is Plancia Magna, responsible for adorning Perge with monuments and statues. The Senate erected her statue on a pedestal, revered as a demigoddess.
This is hunting Artemis. When Agamemnon killed a stag of Artemis during a hunt, the goddess of hunting withheld the winds, and the king could not sail for Troy until he sacrificed his daughter, Iphigenia. Aphrodite, Hera, and Artemis. Who is the prettiest of them all? Paris the judge favored Aphrodite, who bribed him with the most beautiful woman, to the demise of all Trojans. Here's the Skenia of the Perge Theater, the background wall with a sacrifice frieze. They make a sacrifice probably to Dionysus, the god of the theater. This is a sarcophagus, an exclusive production of Perge Workshop. Garlands are carried by Nike, standing over the sphinxes, and Eros riding on dolphins, and Medusa as protection of the tomb.
This is the affluent Aspendos Theater. Imagine the nobility sitting in the center front with umbrellas and cushions sold by other towns. The theater passed hands from Greek to Roman. The Greek theater did not want a wooden structure to block the view, while the Roman theater used a wall like this on stage to improve the sound.
Humor was an important element of the Greek theater. In Roman times, since the theater encourages interaction between audience and gladiators, it was later banned. Nearby are the remains of an aqueduct and a water tower.
When my hero Alexander the Great established a kingdom here, he built Greek cities on rivers. These rivers are sacred. What a lovely turquoise setting for a lunch break. Waiting for the sun's glare to subside, it's excuse to look at some jewelry's glare indoors. The gate of the jewelry store is a replica of the Turkey gate that we shall soon visit. My favorite are the beautiful turquoise gems.
This is Perge. It has a Greek wall and a Roman wall. The gate was decorated by a priestess in the Artemis temple. The city was all laid out in a perpendicular manner. In making the conical gates, Apollonius came up with the term parabola.
As in old times, there's always shopping in the street. That's the turquoise scarf I'd been looking for. There is a shrine dedicated to Tyche, the god of merchants. Perge is an extension of the Ptolemaic kingdom, as it is important to have a Mediterranean harbor. Imagine the agora filled with luxurious Egyptian products like soap, mixed with olive oil, honey, and cream. In Roman times, each bath is separated by arches. There's the undressing room, there's the caldarium or steam room. The scrubbing room is where you socialize. The more money you have, the more scrubbing and oiling you receive. There's gidarium, where you go in the pool, lit by oil lamps.
A Turkish hammam, a bath with massage, is a must. Tonight it is fully booked, but Sandra intervenes. The next thing I know, I am being inundated with soap suds before a full body massage. The land has a lot of sheep, but a lot don't eat meat. After Ramadan, the Muslims sacrifice a sheep and give the meat to the poor. It is good luck to sacrifice an animal at the birth of a child, at the start of a building, or when a wish is granted. An important occupation here is animal husbandry, if your husband happens to be an animal. The animals produce wool, cheese, and yiron, a favorite drink of yogurt and water. In Kor Kuteli, we see the nomadic way of life of people that are content to live in a tent.
Aphrodisias has a famous school of philosophy and sculpture. The Italians come here to get educated. Here on a high plateau, they practice fertility cult that's associated with the river valley. There's a double agora surrounded by Ionic and Corinthian columns. Here, the ancient splendor of the temples still shine among the poplars and pomegranates. The stadium is important. Its 22 rows can hold 30,000. A sure way to be famous and have your statue erected in the city was to sponsor athletes.
The temple of Aphrodite was built in 1 AD. Here is Aphrodite, the mother goddess of the Anatolians and the goddess of beauty and love. It is here that the word aphrodisiac came from. There were festivals to Aphrodite even in Roman times until Constantine, when the temple transitioned to a church. They paraded the statue of the goddess through this Roman gate to different parts of the city.
We cross the Meander River and come to fertile grounds for cotton. The cotton is high and the pickers are busy. We are in the town of Pamukkale, meaning Cotton Castle, in the terraces of White Travertine. The hot springs is saturated with calcium bicarbonate. As the water surges to the edge, it cools, emitting CO2. The residual calcium carbonate is deposited as travertine. You can wade in the soothing hot waters or swim in ancient pools among the Roman ruins. The Romans believed in the curative powers of the hot springs for millennia.
Just outside of the mineral bath is a necropolis, a cemetery. Since Asclepius did not accept the seriously ill, just the psychologically ill, the sick came here to die. The rich, who could afford even to pay mourning women, are buried in a sarcophagus.
Or you might be happier buried in the company of 10 family members in a house tomb like this.
Or in a tumulus tomb topped with the phallic symbol for long genealogy. This could hold 30 people or more, depending upon how active the phallus was. King Midas is a real Phrygian king, who obviously was not frigid, and was buried in a tumulus tomb in Gordium.
After dinner and a dip in the hot springs piped into our hotel, we participate in the belly dancing. Next day, we have a surprise visit to Naturel Leather Factory. I get a surprise when asked to model a lambskin, natural dyed, waterproof jacket. The last stop is Ephesus. The temple of Artemis, the goddess of fertility, once stood here as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Artemis was later replaced by Mary, whose statue was made in the same posture as Artemis. We climb up and up to the Mount of Nightingale, through shaded walk surrounded by nightingales, called the Last House of Mary.
Ephesus is a rich town until the harbor silted due to the burning of too much wood. There were 25,000 inhabitants in Roman times. The rich had open courtyards with mosaics on the ground. It was lit all night with ships arriving from the harbor. Along the marble streets, you can see holes where torches were placed. This is the 2nd century arch for Hadrian. On the left is a frieze of Androclus, who founded the city, fulfilling a Delphic oracle about a fish and a wild boar. The right frieze is dedicated to Artemis, goddess of fertility, in its annual festival. If you are a rich merchant, the first thing you see is the sign on the street. If you have a broken heart, desire a beautiful woman, and have money, then at the crossroads, follow your left foot. You would pretend to walk towards the library, then veer left at the sight of a beautiful woman in the shadows beckoning to you. Christina Scholastica restored the 3-story love house in the 6th century.
Celsius Library is the 3rd biggest in the world, the first being Alexandria. It has double brick walls where air could circulate and protect the books from humidity. At the entrance, 4 statues represent the wisdom contained in the 12,000 volumes. This statue represents Sophia, or wisdom. The others are knowledge, truth, character. If they have a public bath, they also have a public toilet. Because they wear a toga, men and women could mix and are entertained by musicians as they listen to nature's call.
The Hellenistic kingdom, due to the absence of an heir, was passed on to the Romans. One of these Romans, Constantine the Great, Christianized Turkey with 1,000 years of Byzantine rule until the Ottoman Empire took over and converted Turkey to the Muslim country that it is today. From the Hittites, Assyrians, Ionians, Lydians, Phrygians, Greeks, and Romans, the Muslims inherited a rich variety of cultures that makes Turkey a turquoise gem in the Aegean and Mediterranean seas.
Before this will be her very first time tonight. If I put the water on, let's see. Okay. like to join them, please go ahead and start off the dance with the waltz. Please find yourself a partner and help them celebrate by waltzing.